Hey, beautiful beings, welcome to a new episode of the podcast where we heal our depths and unlock the stories that reveal so much about ourselves. In this episode, I want to first thank all of you who have accepted my decision and supported the move to record the podcast in English for the foreseeable future, taking it to a new level. Thank you for sharing your messages with me and for your feedback. I also want to explain to you why I choose to record my podcast in English and not in Serbian or German, considering I live in Germany and I'm from Serbia. The one and only reason is that I believe this way we can all connect and meet at a point where we will all understand each other. Thank you to my Serbian readers, clients, and audience who have been following me for many years and who stand by me. Thank you for your support and understanding. Of course, there will be occasionally episodes and live broadcasts in Serbian, but this time I want to elevate this season to a higher level and give it a boost together with all of you. Thinking about what I could talk about in this episode and what has proven to be so important recently, I realized that the topic of female energy, the female theme of closed hearts, and the inability to open ourselves to new partners, new opportunities, new jobs, and new versions of ourselves is an ideal subject. In this episode, I will talk more about this. For all of you who are here with me for the first time and are listening to my podcast for the first time, welcome. My name is Maja. I'm a writer, therapist, spiritual teacher, and I create this podcast for you to heal our depths and unlock the stories of our ancestors to better understand ourselves. Today, in this episode, let's discover and first of all ask ourselves why we women close ourselves off so much from the world, from life, and from ourselves. What happens to us when we stop trusting our intuition and start trusting our thoughts more? That is, our minds and less our hearts, or that other brain located deep in the center of our being, in our stomach, in our Kundalini energy. I just returned from a program, the Healing Depths program in Mallorca, where I spent several days with 5 phenomenal women. They were a reminder and confirmation of how similar we women really are, how we connect through our stories and energy, and how our healing cycles bring us closer to ourselves, but also remind us that we are often trapped in stories that aren't ours. For this reason, I wanted to ask all of you women in this episode, what story are you living? What is it that you are not allowing yourselves, and for what reason? Who taught you that it is better to be enslaved by certain beliefs and thoughts, that it is better to wait rather than pursue your desires, visions, and dreams? Who told you that a woman is there to please everyone, to put herself last, to forget her inner beauty from which our outer beauty shines? Who told you to forget your inner sage, the one who guides you closer to yourself? This is of great importance for every woman on a healing journey, because the moment we start seeking answers, we realize that they are never outside of us and are always within us. There is something very interesting that I also discovered through working with women in my program, and that is that we often don't believe in what is so obvious, and we believe more in what is served to us, in what is given, handed down to us as an inheritance, and what we are told is our only truth. Rarely does a woman, before reaching that moment of awakening of her consciousness, her femininity, her beautiful energy, and the need to return to her source, rarely does she truly ask herself if this is her truth, or if there is something else, something more or something different that could be her truth. And the truth is always what sets us free. working through various approaches with many women, I realized how sensitive we all are, how fragile we all are in the same place, how often we are in conflict with ourselves, and how often we believe that something instant, quicker is much better than a long, beautiful, slow, sometimes painful journey, but one that is necessary to better understand ourselves, to first understand every fold of our soul and understand what guides us through certain actions, why we choose certain partners, why we return to the same type of man or personality profile over and over again, not realizing that we still haven't healed something that gives us a very important message about ourselves. But we forget what that message is and don't want to look into it. So we always somehow find ourselves in similar relationship patterns. Not to say with similar men, because they aren't the same. In new partners, we somehow always discover the same pain we keep returning to, hitting like a fly to light to a lamp, and we forget that by self-harming, we don't heal our wounds, but deepen the wounds of our ancestors. This is particularly interesting when I work with us women as a woman from the Balkan, because we especially carry the stories of our ancestors, the traumas of our mothers and grandmothers in our bones, and we believe firmly in certain beliefs, thinking they are our truth. The truth is they are not. I also often hear women complaining to me, I can't find a partner. None of them are right for me. The same situation keeps happening to me. I always somehow fall for his story. I always somehow believe that I am the one, and then it turns out that he has 10 other women besides me. It always seems like he's playing some game with me. Or, for example, the following scenario. After several years, even told I wasn't thinking about him, he repaired. Even told I didn't want him to come back into my life, he's here again. He sent me a message, he wanted to contact me. I decided to see him anyway. I decided to go for coffee with him, to go for a drink with him. What is it that he has to say to me? And that's where we actually come to. The fact is that we are accepting ourselves less and less, loving ourselves less and less, respecting ourselves even less, and very often deceiving and lying to ourselves by believing that we have left our relationship behind and moved on. But what is the truth? The truth is that we spend a lot of time in that so-called period of silence thinking about our partners, analyzing where we went wrong, what could have been different, and in fact, we tie them to ourselves with our thoughts like a fine ribbon to our energy, constantly keeping them in our circle, calling them back and trying to somehow bring them back into our lives. Rarely does a woman admit her own truth to herself, and rarely does she admit that she does this. But most women do this and try to compensate in this way for everything they believed they lost and convinced themselves they lost somewhere through that relationship that in reality never even happened. It's just a lesson on that path, and a message on how to heal some trauma, some wound, and how to work on ourselves. I will tell you what we do in the Healing Depths program. Of course, I can't reveal everything, but I will give you a brief overview, a few steps of what it would look like if you come to me with such a story and problem. The fact is that every woman carries her own story. Usually, the story she brings to my program is not a story that actually brought her to me, because Our unconscious loves to do its job and show us what we still don't know or understand about ourselves and how we can help ourselves. Then the story we brought to the program usually gets set aside and as something much stronger from our subconscious surface, and we start to explore and dig deeper. How do we do this? The program is very intense. If we conduct it in the forest in Rodelben in Germany, it is very interesting because there is a whole roadmap. And even if the same woman comes several times to the program, it is always different. What is different? The approach is different because the team is different and the intention is different. For each woman who comes with a specific intention, I create a unique journey map through the heart of the forest and select the symbols we will work with. Of course, working with symbols requires a lot of cautions and focus from the therapist in relation to the client to better follow the content that emerges from her unconscious and to better understand what is happening during the process. Because in these processes, to be clear, this is not like a typical session where you sit or lie down on the couch and talk or work through imagination and various processes with symbols. This is work in nature, where you experience certain symbols firsthand and through your unconscious, but also through your whole body and through the conscious presence of being in nature and touching nature. Because in this way, we actually gain the most powerful insights about ourselves. Of course, sometimes it is not pleasant, and we cannot plan how a process will look and how long it will last. It depends on each individual because everyone brings their own content, no matter how carefully I have prepared the program and chosen the symbols. I'm there as a mediator to help bring the content to the surface, and during the process, I do not provide interpretations. We leave that for the last day of our program, our meeting, where we analyze everything we have worked on, every step, and where you receive very deep explanations and clear guidelines from me on how to deepen your work on yourself. So, why is the Healing Depths program so interesting to many women? Because the work in psychotherapy requires that we take breaks of a week between sessions. Rarely does anyone comes to sessions twice a week. In the Healing Depths program, we go through 9 symbols, like 9 months to the rebirth of ourself, our being. For the woman in us, or the man, if a man comes to the program, or the relationship, if a couple comes together to the program, it is the birth of a new relationship, and through these 9 symbols, we get to know ourselves on a truly incredible level by studying our thoughts, emotions, and sensations in our bodies. Often our processes are accompanied by many challenges that appear in direct contact with nature. Often some little creatures appear or suddenly something unexpected like a fallen tree that we need to jump over or a sudden downpour and we find ourselves in some mud. Just like in life, we encounter challenges that are there to teach us something new about ourselves. Often I meet clients who are not so open to these challenges, but after the program they realize how much those challenges helped them to better understand why they kept getting into certain situations or relationships like headless flies, persistently trying to achieve something that needed to be understood, healed, and moved on from. We often come to some amusing insights when we do interpretations and when we exchange experiences. We reach an incredible step because we exchange and analyze the second part of the work with symbols, which consists of a special act that my clients create themselves. Of course, it is not just talking with me and not just contact with nature. They have various tasks in caves, at springs, sometimes drawing, sometimes sculpting, and many other activities. I won't reveal them all now. If you want to experience it, feel free to contact me. Write to me via my contact page, and we can work together in Mallorca or in Germany in the heart of the forest. But what is interesting is that our closed side as women often reveals the closed nature of all our female ancestors. The female lineage we usually neglect. Then suddenly, through working with symbols and our unconscious, we start to notice how our mother was closed off in certain processes, how much trauma she hadn't healed, how our grandmother passed on her traumas and unresolved pains and deep wounds to our mother, and consequently, this was passed on to us also. How often these unhealthy relationships were extremely important to us because they were a deep wound in which there was also a cure that could help us understand who we are and what we need to cut away from ourselves so that in the place where we cut it off, a new part of our soul, our being, could begin to grow, one that is much more beautiful, much stronger, more resilient, more experienced, and much more our own. At the beginning of this episode, I mentioned how much impatience there is among us women and how we want everything immediately, which is simply impossible because life is a process and we cannot live it in one day. If we did, it would mean we would die the same moment. Instead, we walk through the process and discover along the journey what nurtures us, what hurts us, what makes us more beautiful, what makes us wiser, what reminds us of something from our childhood, what has repelled us all our lives but might actually be the right thing for us, the right situation, or the right person. Why do we have certain fears we don't want to face? And why do these fears in 99% of cases hide wonderful possibilities? They often show that we as women are very creative beings who, in their wisdom and creativity, hide incredible chambers where other beings, other women, and often men find themselves and heal. If you're now wondering how this relates to our closed heart, it often happens that when we let too many of those people or beings into our sacred space, they want to heal there because they felt that powerful, beautiful, but also gentle energy that provides them with many resources and helps them heal, but at the same time drains us. When we unconsciously recognize that this hurts us, instead of finding our source to resource ourselves, to renew, to set clear boundaries, we close our heart and feel that someone has used to hurt or hurt us. Therefore, it is also important to do energetic work to cleanse our being, our body, our spirit, and our soul, but also our core being, our womb. All negative energy that accumulates, gathers in the center of our being, especially in us women, and prevents us from moving forward. This negative energy often turns into illnesses, and I often encounter women in my practice who face somatic issues, some with different stories and diagnoses, yet remain unprepared to look into their pain and those chambers where they so selflessly healed others and welcomed others, unaware that the answer lies in those very chambers. So, why is healing our womb our uterus, our energy at the center of our being, so important, and in fact marks the beginning of opening ourselves as beings and our hearts to all the beauty that comes into our lives. For one simple reason, because when we don't heal our pains and our stories, and when we remain closed throughout our bodies full of blockages and energetic stagnations, we continue to live in stories that aren't ours. What does it mean to be a closed woman? It means that all the men we've met in our lives, all the romantic failures we've experienced, and all the relationships that never happened but have hurt us in our thoughts, we store in the center of our being, carrying them through our energy and the energy of all those others. These could be significant others starting from our childhood, our parents, our caregivers, also our partners, and all those who have played a role recognizing in us a resource from which they somehow energetically cleanse themselves, leaving the dirty energy in us. Unaware that this happened, we carried that energy forward, developing various illness, finding ourselves in situations where we don't know how to behave and where we struggle with everyday challenges in our lives. I have written extensively about this in my first two novels. Unfortunately, they haven't been translated into English yet, but I would love for us to translate them in the future so they can be accessible to all of you who wish to listen to them or read them. Today, I made an effort to translate one of the stories from my first novel, and which tells the story of a woman on her journey of self-discovery. She chose love, but also defined her life by exposing herself to everyone she met, literally laying bare the contours of her soul. This was the only way she could find shelter, warmth, and healing. What I would like to share with you is her story, where she embarks on a quest towards herself through a relationship that was profoundly unhealthy. It's a true story. It is my personal story that I poured into my first novel. Initially, it seems to break me, but ultimately, it healed me and liberated me to become who I am today. After a long journey, I decided to change my profession, study psychology, psychotherapy, explore spiritual and ancient knowledge, and now work with all of you, with all the wonderful women who have actually led me to myself, the person I have always been waiting for. So I would love to share this story with you because it carries many messages, and you may find connections to your own life and experiences. I open the door and see him. I don't know if my legs or my heart are failing me. I don't know if I'm done or I've barely lived. Nothing is right. Are we going to talk? He asks me. And he himself isn't any better, or maybe he's better than me after all. I sit down and listen. I listen terribly because I can't speak. I can't tell him anything as much as I want to fly into his arms and just be next to him. I just want to be with him, kiss him, touch him, make love to him, smell him, breathe him in, and die. Simply and plainly. Yet he sits beside me and everything starts to fall apart. I tell him how he left me. He speaks through sobs and he says that he knows. I'm torn apart and I can't stop crying. I can't stop from the sorrow and dying that started a day earlier inside me, and I don't know how to tell him. I cry, he cries. He hugs me and says, "Don't cry, calm down, don't cry." He doesn't know that nothing can calm me down the way he wants. I'm not here anymore. What he holds in his arms is the remainder of me. And I tell him how much he hurt me, how disappointed I am, how much of a jerk he turned out to be, how little he loved me to be able to live like that. Yet, how much he must love me to cry and sit there beside me, I never knew. He never said he loved me to my face. Never. He hugs me, kisses me lightly on the lips, as if he never kissed me before, as we never passionately kissed each other, as if just 2 days ago we weren't lying in the same bed, me almost naked and him fully dressed, kissing, laughing, breathing each other in. I didn't even get a kiss. I didn't get anything more. I didn't even expect him. I knew he left that day, but I didn't know why he came back this evening. I wandered sobbing and trying to calm my heart tearing apart inside me, galloping to break forever. If I could have died, I would have died right then. But I didn't. It would have been too easy for me, too easy for him. He left. He never stayed. I knew it now. Painfully aware I knew everything. He just lied and offered dreams that don't exist. Played where he shouldn't have. Took, made me believe. Walk with me through a foreign city, holding my hand in his pocket, laughing and kissing. Driving me through the night with music, holding me tight in the car. Made love to me as if I were his. Offered tenderness as if he loved me. As if he would forever cuddle and hold me. Listened to my stories, offered his own. Dream the same dreams. He never stayed, never fulfilled a pile of promises, never even talked about me to them. He just lied, offered everything without foundation. And through anger and rage when he left, I realized I'm angry at his lies, at his weakness. I knew he was just weak and nothing more, that he doesn't want to. That last part was the key to everything. Overnight he changed his mind, overnight he turned his back and disappeared. Overnight he became distant, became someone else whom I no longer knew, and who asked me to be there for him, to still trust him, to at least talk to him. And while I wrapped in a towel because I had no more dreams to wrap myself in, boiling tea to warm myself and wash away the bitterness, at least a little, I saw his bottle of wine labeled to the end of the world. Anger, bitterness, horror. To hell with it. Not to the end of the world. He led me to the very end of the world. I realized that. I turned around and went to bed, avoiding the urge to smash the walls of despair. Anger, despair, bitterness, horror. I never wanted to see him again, but again, I wanted to watch him for the rest of my life, forever. Next morning, catharsis. Emptiness and a strange feeling, a strange lost feeling that I didn't know who it belonged to. Yes, it must be that, nothing else, a cathartic mixture of the incompatible and a return to a long lost being. I wiped my wet body, wet cheeks, put on my lovely perfume that once smelled like love to someone. I have no idea to whom anymore and when it was. Yesterday? A year ago? 100 years ago? When he didn't care what I thought at all. Anything. I understood. I stepped out of the cloud of perfume and put on my silk panties that I bought recently for whom? For no one, yeah. And while trying to hide swollen eyelids, dark circles, and pale cheeks, I couldn't hide. He spoke clearly to everyone, even to myself. I'm done with everything in me related to him. Once and for all, I'm done. In fact, only he is finished in me. He is no more. Oh God, if only he knew how I killed him that night. When he turned his back on me and betrayed me, cruelly leaving me despite all the lies and tenderness he had given me less than an hour before. I left the house determined to cut off an entire life once and for all. I owe nothing to anyone anymore. I never did. I never had to tell anyone anything, explain anything, prove anything to anyone. I never had to stop for anyone, smile more, reach out, be there or not be there. I did everything for myself, and then I started doing only for others, caring only about others, pleasing only others, while no one ever pleased me in any of those ways. I smiled. It's over. Let everyone go their own way. I have nothing left to say, to convey, to wait for, to give away. I have nothing to believe in anymore. That's it. The clear end, catharsis. You close one door and many open at that moment. You just need to see, to look in the right direction. Where they don't want you, where they don't value you, where they don't love you enough, where they're not willing to fight for you and protect you. Remember, you will never find peace and happiness there. You will never find what you want to find, and lies will torment you, hunt you, offer you dreams and fog, but they will never give you anything. They will never give themselves anything either. Just the illusion that they have something. Unfortunately, they don't. They are sad and unhappy, just like you are, because you finally see clearly without halo that they were never there, that they were never yours. Let them go where they go. You have nothing to keep them with. And what you hide from them, don't tell them. They don't need to know. Love them still if you want. It will pass. Keep everything that's left of them or throw it away. But you can't throw away life. It's within you. Still, don't tell them anything. If they loved you, if anything remained for them, even a little, they would have seen it themselves, know it themselves. Catharsis is fucking tough. Oh God, I hope someone wakes you up that morning when you go through it, because if it doesn't wake you up, there is nothing left for you either. I hope you enjoyed this story from my novel, my first novel, which I hope will be translated into English to touch all those women who need it. Because as much as I try to escape from this novel, in the end, I returned to it with so much gratitude because it actually made me a healed woman and one who helps other women heal. If you are one of those women right now wondering why your heart is closed, why you still carry so much pain within, why you can't let go, open up, heal, surrender, why you can't stay in relationships, build a healthy connection with someone, or recognize how to find answers within yourself, perhaps it's the right time to take a break and reconsider your priorities, where you truly stand with yourself. If you're willing to work on this challenge, on this issue of opening your heart, I warmly invite you to work with me through online counseling or join the 3-day retreat program Healing Depths in Rodelben or the 6-day program in Mallorca, where we deeply explore all the faults of our being, heal our traumas by understanding the stories we live, which may not truly be ours, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, if my story was helpful to you, a story from my first novel, I warmly invite you to share your impressions with me. You can do so below this episode in the comments, or you can write me through my website mayavu.eu. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. I look forward to hearing what this episode has awakened in you, and I look forward to hearing about the questions and challenges you are facing. In the next episode, I will delve deeper into this topic and share another story, perhaps from another novel that continues and discusses the healing journey of my protagonist from Sonia, connecting two eras through beautiful, ancient, secretive, historical stories that reveal family secrets and teach us how these ancient stories can be burdens until we understand how to untie them, how to set sail from the reefs towards the open sea, towards our freedom, and how to heal ourselves. In any case, rest assured that each episode will carry much of my personal, deeply personal thoughts and what I wish to share with all of you. My Serbian readers have been enjoying my writing and books for several years, over a decade, and this year my third novel is coming out. I hope that soon all of you, my dear readers and listeners of this podcast, will have the opportunity to enjoy my novels translated into English, and I'm truly looking forward to that exchange. Thank you for the time you have taken to listen to this episode. If it has been helpful and healing for you and you believe it could be for another woman, please feel free to share it with her. I wish you a wonderful rest.